Hello everyone and welcome to the WCQ Berlin 2018. I'm here with Dom Galizia and we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be covering some Duel Links.
That's right. Welcome to the first invitational tournament here at the WCQ in Berlin, and we're going to bring you some matches from 4 players that we've invited to participate.
Yeah, we've set up a little exhibition. So many of you are aware Duel Links, our mobile game, is grown massively and we've got a huge following for it, so we wanted to start incorporating a little bit to our YCS schedule, so we thought we'd cast a few matches, sort of gauge the feedback and let us know if it's something you're interested in. Yeah, 75
million downloads.
Yeah,
Duel Links is a really incredible game, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so the players that we actually have on, we got a couple of headliners from the regular TCG that's agreed to play the exhibition that we're setting up. We have Lorenzo Roma, a former Worlds competitor, I believe. Yeah,
represented Europe at the 2016 World Championship in Orlando. And Robin Bachofner, really prominent on the TCG side as well, does a lot of attending participation at YCS events.
And they're our first 2 players today, and what are they playing?
So Lorenzo is playing Spellbooks, he's using Arcana, and he's using Show of Nightmares. And Robin is playing Destiny Heroes. He's using Aster Phoenix and playing the skill Destiny Calling.
Sure, okay. We'll ask you a little bit about the skills when we get to the table. I think the players are just loading their game now, and when we get to that. So tell me about Arcana's skill. Why is this relevant for Spellbooks? Because obviously for the regular trading card game when Spellbooks was a thing, we didn't really have additional skills.
I mean, Arcana's skill Show of Nightmares is really good. If you have 3 or more spell cards in your graveyard, which with Spellbooks is something that happens quite often, you get to add 1 of those randomly back to your hand.
Oh, so it's like the reverse of Odin's skill, right?
Essentially, yes. And then on Robin's side, he's playing Destiny Calling, which is if a Destiny Hero monster he has attacks a monster with a higher attack, it will gain 1,000 attack during damage calculation, and he can activate that if he has 3,000 or less life points.
Sure, he gets a field spell. I think the players have just loaded in now, so if we just flick to the table, we should be able to catch the match.
Yeah.
So
Lorenzo's a good start.
Lorenzo's starting. Tell me a bit about the start. What's the setup?
So he's opened with Secrets, Spellbook of Secrets. He's played that to go into the deck and get out Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. He's added that to hand. He's now summoned it, and he's straight away he's looking to build that graveyard. So Spellbook Magician of Prophecy comes down. He's straight away activating Spellbook of Master. This is going to allow him to go into the deck and
he gets to copy a spellbook in his graveyard, so he then uses a second search of secrets, because you can only activate each spellbook once per turn.
Correct. But Spellbook of the Master is so versatile.
So at what point does he play Spellbook of Judgment and summon Jalgan the Spiritualist?
We don't quite have those cards in the Duel Links game yet, man.
Right, okay. But I see you're going to get some kind of similar setup where you have
really
a lot of disruption with Spellbook of Fate and Silent Magician.
Yeah, Silent Magician special summons it by tributing a spellcaster type monster. So he sent that away, brought this out. He gets a negation once per turn. Gains attack and defense based on the cards in your hand.
Oh,
so that's why
isn't Destiny Heroes, by the way. We're actually seeing the Amazonas. I think we got a little bit mixed up on what Robert was playing.
Oh, indeed. So Robin's playing now Amazonas. So he's playing Holy Guard, which he doesn't take any damage in his turn as his skill. And he's got a really strong setup there. He sets 3 cards to his Spell and Trap card zone, passes.
So he's not flipping Morphing Jar and a bunch of damaging traps.
Again, we don't have those cards in Duel Links at this moment in time.
You never want Morphing Jar. That's that one's a little bit strong.
So Robin passes and Lorenzo draws. And here comes this another Spellbook Magician of the Prophecy.
So if you're Lorenzo, what are you worried about? What are you worried about here when you're coming in with your Silent Magician? Because you must be feeling pretty good with a monster that self-replaces with a 3,500 can be affected by spells.
Yeah, correct. He knows that he's got a lot of back row here, so you can see the Spell and Trap card zone is full up. He's going to be wary because he knows even if those are spell cards, he can only activate Silent Magician's effect once, so he can negate 1 spell card.
Amazonas and Onslaught is face down. I believe that's if an Amazonas battles at the end of the damage calculation, you banish the monster they battle with.
Yes.
Which is actually actual kryptonite against Silent Magician, right?
Correct.
Because it only gets its effect if it's sent to the graveyard. So does Spellbook of Fate is probably going after the monster, or do you just go for the blind back row?
I would be going for the monster.
Yeah, but you must be looking for a possible... No, you don't have the game shot here. because it's only what's that, 3,000 attack?
Yeah, but the monster's the problem. If he has any indication as to what Robin's playing, he knows that back row is those spell and track cards that are face down could cause him all sorts of problems.
Amazoness Onslaught has an additional effect, right, where you get to summon Amazoness from your hand in the battle phase?
That's correct.
So Robert is actually pretty safe in this situation, right?
Yes, but again, it depends on Lorenzo and what he draws into. We know that he has enough spell cards to go looking for that additional Spellbook of Fate set for the next turn. He doesn't have to carry on with the declaration of attack, so we'll see how this plays out. It's not quite game, set, and match, let's put it like that.
Yeah, it was a little bit worrying when your turn is set a bunch of cards and hope for the best, but it turns out there's actually a lot more strategy there's a lot more advantage to doing that in Duel Links, I guess, than the regular TCG.
Indeed. I mean, we know that Robin has a face-down willpower. We know that Lorenzo doesn't know that, so we know that one of those cards isn't really going to cause him all sorts of problems. But here he's going to flip the Wall of Disruption. Absolutely amazing card, in my opinion. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can activate it, and it will reduce the attack of all current face-up attack position monsters your opponent controls by 800. And that's each monster that's in attack position. So
for each monster they control?
Yes.
Oh, exactly. That seems like a pretty good draw. Amazoness Princess, right? Especially with the effect to... Is it discard?
It's going to... Firstly, he's going to summon it. When it's normal summon or special summon, he gets to add a card from the deck to the hand. Yep. And then when it's attacking, it gets to discard to summon. So yes, it's again it's a really good,
very good for
card.
Doing tricks with the Amazoness Pet Tiger.
Very much so, because you get to special summon the Pet Tiger. So he goes for that additional copy, goes looking for that Onslaught. That card's a really good. It's recently been restricted to 2 copies.
The semi-limited list in Duel Links works a little bit different from the regular list, right? Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about what the difference is between...
Yeah, the main difference is that any card that's restricted to 1, you could only play 1 card that's restricted to 1. So
off of the whole limited list, right?
Off of the entire list. So you couldn't play 1 of this and 1 of this. You pick 1 card that's restricted to 1, and you're allowed to play 1 copy of that. And the semi-limited is, say, 2 cards. So any card that's semi-limited to 2 is you can play any 2 cards that are on that list. But it doesn't need to be 2 of the same card. You could play 1 and 1, because if a card is versatile, you might be able to match it up with another card that's semi-limited. So a lot of players are testing that right now. We're seeing that in the meta.
Right, I imagine the regular TCG would look very different if we were only allowed to take 1 of those many limited cards. Amazoness Pet Tiger. Baby Tiger, my apologies.
Indeed.
Sometimes I remember the pre-development names of the cards, and I've got to get out of the habit of that. So, Amazoness Baby Tiger.
Yeah.
I really like this card. It keeps coming back as long as you keep summoning Amazoness monsters, right?
Correct. So basically, it's the one that allows you to go back and get more board presence. It's really good. It keeps you going.
Yeah, and especially with Amazoness Onslaught also involved, it's just free resources you get back that actually start hard punishing monsters, especially Silent Magician.
And it's the banishing. It's that banishing. It's like that's why Spellbook of Fate in the Spellbooks deck is so good.
What's so interesting about Spellbook of Fate in Duel Links is that you don't have a main phase 2, because normally you would only commit cards to the field in the last possible moment to give your opponent the least amount of time to respond to them.
Indeed,
but because you got to do it before the battle phase, if they do decide to use that Spellbook of Fate, they can now they see your entire setup at the time they're attacking, whereas in the normal TCG, you don't see someone's entire setup until after main phase 2.
Yeah, Robin's looking really good right now. He's activated that Onslaught. He used its effect to banish that Silent Magician, and he's looking pretty strong right now.
Yeah,
Here comes the Spellbook of Eternity.
So that's going to be bringing back Spellbooks of the Master.
Yep. It's interesting. He has a lot of options in the deck. He could have, he can really play it out in multiple ways. So we're going to see a little bit as to his style of play right now and what he's thinking he can accomplish.
He's down 1 Silent Magician. How many does this Arcana deck play for Silent Magicians?
I would be playing 3.
Because you can't get stuck with the level 8 in your deck,
exactly.
Right?
You need to be going... the Silent Magician, some people play less, actually, sorry. But the Magician of Prophecy, you definitely want the 3. The Silent Magician, you probably want the 3. And yeah, you're only going to be playing 1 of that that superior level Silent Magician.
Ah, yeah, an Arcana skill being used. Is that a once per duel skill, or is that a just once per turn?
It's once per duel.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems a little bit crazy if that was.
It would be really too good, yeah.
Actually, I find the skills are a really interesting aspect of Duel Links and how it changes deck building.
Completely changes deck building. I mean, you know, I'm looking at this Amazonas deck right now, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how comfortable I am with this playstyle, because I play the Odeon skill, and the Odeon skill is Endless Trap Hell.
Yep.
And it sends one trap card from your... If you have 3 trap cards in your graveyard, it sends one back to the deck, and you add one back to your hand. So it allows you to utilize those traps again and again. So yeah, the skills really allow you to play the decks in a different way. Really, really good.
We're seeing another Spellbook of Fate activation, and it's just all of these baby tigers are getting stripped away. That'll be the second one removed. Yeah,
that's a really good tactic for Lorenzo. If he doesn't have Amazonas monsters to battle with, he knows that he has a chance to win this game. But while Onslaught is on the field, any Amazonas monster is a problem for him.
Yeah, any Amazonas becomes a massive removal card, and the baby tigers are just constantly coming back. I guess that's why you play the skill Holy Guard, which prevents you taking damage your own turn, so you can just keep crashing your baby tigers. It kind of feels a little bit barbaric. Like, baby tiger, get him.
Yeah.
Get him.
He's like, it doesn't matter, you're going to come back next turn, and that's exactly what's happening, you know. The baby tiger and face-up attack position, doesn't matter that it's got a small attack. Robin knows in his turn he's going to take away the biggest threat on Lorenzo's board, so that's a really good play from Lorenzo.
We're seeing the number of cards left in Lorenzo's deck. He's only got 6 cards left, right?
Yeah.
So
he needs to draw into Silent Magician, which he hasn't done so. So he is poking through with this 500, but unless he draws Silent Magician, I don't think he's going to be able to get there in time. And he has to hope that Robin doesn't draw an Amazonas.
So it's basically, this is a very inevitable game. That in a drawn-out game, the Amazonas deck is going to outgrind the Spellbook deck.
It's exactly that.
So the Spellbook deck is actually on like a clock, is what you're saying, right?
Yes, it really needs to deal with the board and punch through for that damage as quickly as possible, because without it, the Onslaught becomes such a problem.
So if the Onslaught is like one of the main reasons that the Amazonas deck can stand toe-to-toe, would Lorenzo been at benefit to banish the Onslaught with his Spellbook of Fate instead? He knows there's 2 in play because he saw the center card was set.
Yeah, he
Amazonas
knows.
Onslaught.
I think he knows from assessing what's happened so far that actually dealing with that first Onslaught doesn't help him. He knows the second one's there. He knows he probably can't deal with it just yet. And he knows he needs to punch through for damage, so it's the clock is ticking. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, I guess one of the problems for Robert as well is by committing that second Amazonas Onslaught, his Wall of Disruption is
he's
stuck
locked
in his
out.
hand.
He's locked out right now.
What is his final set card? Did you manage to catch that one?
It's a willpower. So he's now drawn another willpower. So he's got 2 willpowers, 1 set, 1 in hand. He has a Wall of Disruption in hand, and he has an additional Onslaught set. It's not great. It's not great. If Lorenzo can get into Silent Magician, this game could well be moving into Lorenzo's favour.
Oh, well, there's a Silent Magician.
There he comes.
Mentioned. Yeah, it just kind of looks like the Spellbook of Fate stripping away 3 monsters, and that's crazy that you're able to resolve 3 Spellbook of Fate. That's like 9 spell cards that you have to banish in order to use that.
Yep. And he's doing quite well here. He's going to punch through. That's 2,000. It leaves Robin on 600, and we know that he can't do much right now. So
no more trap cards are going to be doing him any good.
That's exactly it. Lorenzo's got to push. So we're going to
see that. He's got the Spellbook of Fate, so I think actually it doesn't matter what Robert draws, right? Is there a draw in the Amazonas deck that can play around Spellbook of Fate?
Well, he wouldn't be playing anything. The only thing he could possibly do is summon a monster right now, and that's going to get taken away from him.
Yeah, so this one's going to be going over to Lorenzo most likely, like, sans a miracle happening.
It's pretty much a formality at this point, yes. Lorenzo's played well. He's dealt with the Amazonas monsters. Robin's been locked out with those trap cards. His graveyard management
has been excellent with this. He's just been able to resolve Spellbook of Fate, Spellbook of Fate, Spellbook of Fate, and more trap cards. So maybe setting that second Onslaught was actually a mistake, because it stopped him from being able to get that Wall of Disruption down.
Which would prevent him from punching
just
through with that
him
damage.
more turns.
Yep.
So the game Robert wants to play is I'm trying to drag this game out as long as possible, whilst Lorenzo's game is I need to end this before the inevitable happens.
Yep.
And Lorenzo's almost burned his entire deck to win this.
Yep. He's activating the Spellbook of Fate.
take out one of the face down cards, most likely.
Probably.
Oh, maybe he goes after the onslaught in case he's anticipating Robert's drawn. He knows there's 2 onslaughts, so that makes no sense, right? So you just go for the one that you can't see?
He's going to target one of the face... Well, at
yeah,
the end
exactly.
Gonna,
goes for willpower.
But yeah, it's pretty much a... Oh! He didn't attack.
Because Lorenzo was doing that during the end of Robert's turn.
Oh, I see. So he's just drawn.
Yeah. So Lorenzo's now going to get to make his attacks for his turn.
Here we go.
That's going to be enough to clean up this first game.
There it goes. Lorenzo takes the win.
Very, very decisively. Very excellent management of his resources. Yeah, we're just going to show the onslaught. Just constantly making sure that he had ways to feed that Spellbook of Fate.
Yeah, he managed the board from Robin quite well. He took away those monsters; they're the big problem, and he takes the game.
Yeah, shutting him
played.
down very hard. Good job to Lorenzo on that one.
Unlucky Robin with the trap card.
Yeah,
drawing.
he ended up hitting 3 trap cards in a row. The Amazoness deck, as you mentioned, plays a lot of trap cards with the free spell and trap zones. That can become an issue.
Yep.
Setting the extra onslaught probably made sense to prevent his opponent from being able to shut down the when the Tiger runs in.
Yep.
But in doing so, he kind of left himself with, well, I need to have monsters in the graveyard. So maybe he shouldn't have set the willpower because his monsters aren't getting beat up in battle, right?
Yeah.
Until it happens, you don't need to set it, right?
Yeah, but ultimately the second onslaught is because he already committed to the willpower, so he was hoping to draw into monsters, and if they got dealt with in battle or not by fate, basically, not by Spellbook of Fate, he knew he was in the game. So
yeah,
yep, that smaller spell and trap card zone, we see. You have to be really careful with your decision making. Yeah,
you don't want to get stuck with too many cards you can't play. So that's going to be our first game for Duel Links. Stay tuned. We'll have some more coverage for WCQ Berlin. Please stay with us and have fun.